years, but. Good morning. I can't believe it. It's December 17th. I say that every week, everyone. And we are discussing Phosphorus from Burning Girls and Other Stories by Veronica Schanoes. Wow, it's been a depressing week, and this story caps off the depressingness. Now, as I started reading, I realized that I had heard, like it rang a bell, the Matchstick Girls.
Yes.
But wow. And
we've read stories about the protests before, but nothing,
Yes.
nothing
But
like
that
this.
was the shirt.
You're right.
There was
a triangle.
Right.
In New York.
And the fire.
I mean, I had never read about this fire.
And then they were the basis of striking and unions. This is what the Bryant and May place looked like. I'm sure it still looks the same.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And where exactly is it located, you know?
In London.
In London.
They lived in London. They lived on, I don't know. They probably didn't call it the Lower East Side, but it was East.
Yeah.
The East End.
East End.
East End.
I can't
And,
remember.
it was just as poor. A lot of Irish were there. This is hard to look at, but here's the girls. But look at that. I mean, this is what they.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I mean, what they went through.
I never saw anything like
And this is years before the shirt.
Yes.
The shirt.
Yes, this is in 1888.
Right.
1888.
The shirt maybe like that.
So, I think we can't forget because we're not that far away from this. And we don't see it, but what goes on in third world countries, but we can have our stuff.
The meat packing.
It's not that.
Yes.
Well, the meat packing factories in the United States, they now are hiring children in.
By one person at a time. Speak.
Wait.
Channel.
They're hiring children where?
In meat packing.
Packing.
In third world countries.
The Jews in Ohio or Iowa.
In the United States, they lowered the expectation in some of the Western, in the states that have huge.
Hiring kids here in the United States?
Yes, no, they're bending the rules about how many hours they can work a week and,
Yes.
All
right. Okay. You can hear me, right? One person at a time. Alice, go.
No, I was going to say, I can't hear what anybody's saying. Please call on one person at a time.
Oh, Alice, what a good idea. Channel your inner Vanessa and speak loudly. Lynn, who's rearranging the furniture, did you have a comment?
Guys, it's like two groups.
I know.
Let's hear a question.
But Lynn,
That would be a good idea.
I like facing people.
Lynn, do you have a comment?
What? Yes.
Yes, we'll go.
Well, I need my book, but I wrote it down.
Oh.
When I first read the title, I said, oh, this must be about the chemical phosphorus. And I looked up phosphorus, and the irony is just hit you in the face because phosphorus is a vital nutrient for all life.
Yeah.
And it's a highly reactive chemical, of course, but it's the key component of bones, teeth, cell membranes, and tissues. And so look what the twist, the irony.
Yeah, it was terrible. Right. Judy, then Ellen.
One of the other things is Lucifer, which is the concept is Latin for bring light. So, and oddly, Lucifer is considered a devil.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole history of this. So yes, beginning in Isaiah, it's mentioned about bringing light.
Yeah.
And then, but it's also the fall of the Babylonian king who oppressed people. And Lucifer was actually an angel who he had been oppressing. He became a bad guy, and he was sent to hell. Yeah, so that's what again became Satan. I mean, it's
So starting out with
for Satan, but that's where it comes from.
brilliant.
I thought it was a brilliant introduction.
The
He had to
concept
go-
of the story.
But the story I could have done without.
Yeah, it was really, really hard. Abby, I'm going to get to you in 1 minute, but I think it's such an important part. As you look at this book as a whole, at first I said before we sat down, oh, Phosphorus, that's why it's called Burning Girls. But the last story is Burning Girls. But it does have a link to the title. And, these are stories of empowerment for women, and that they really started, these matchstick girls started everything. Evie, then Ellen. Evie.
Yeah, I just want to say that I was totally lost at first because and I was listening to it on Audible.
Oh,
Only on
that's who
Audible.
told me. I just said someone told me. It's Evie. You should always say the name of the person.
Okay. And I just want to say thank you for that, for the information that you sent, because I would have been totally lost. And I was trying to tie it back to the short story, the fairy tale that I was not familiar with about the little batch girl. So I then went to, read about that a little bit. It was, I think it was a Hans Christian Andersen kind of thing, also from the 1800s. But having that extra bit of information is so helpful. So thank you for sending that, because I wouldn't have known where to look.
Well, I sent in the invite to the meeting, just what I found on Wikipedia about it, because as soon as I started reading, I had to start Googling, because I knew it was, it dinged a hook in my brain that, yes, this is a true story and we should be learning about it. Ellen, then Mary.
I was just going to say, we've all had problems with some of the stories, at least in our hearts, in terms of reading some of these things. But there are such good, as we've just said, contrast. No, the ironies, the ironies that are in every story, but this one particularly, in terms of the extreme opposite from good to terrible. What you said about Phosphorus, the Lucifer, the whole thing. That if we accept that, maybe, I'm sure that there are other disturbing stories in here that we're going to have to read. But if we get that in our heads, maybe we will feel better about reading them, as opposed to the first time through going, I didn't want to read this. And then you get more, we've always had more appreciation for it in class. So maybe we've got to the point now where we can appreciate it more.
I have Mary, Sue, Lynn, Elaine. Wait a minute. Who did I say? Mary.
Okay, so this is just of this book in general, in the stories. Okay, it bothers me that they're not approachable without sitting there Googling. And that's what you have to do. And that really bothered me. Great literature. You might want to go back and Google things, but you can read it and really get a lot out of it. And then you go back, well, I really wanted that reference was, or I really want to look at that again. Or even when you're reading, you kind of do it, but you could skip it. You could go on and still get, I think she's too heavy on, I mean, it makes it approachable. And I know this is the Match Girl reference. I did not look up Match Girl, but I did read about Irish.
But had you heard The Match Girl?
Yeah, no, I know that. I knew the title. Yes. But I don't remember what the story was.
So I didn't look it up. I have to disagree with you. That's what reading is for. It's got to push you. Yeah. And but
I don't think it's pushing my ideas. I think she could do the whole thing in a way that it's approachable, that I wouldn't have to stop to read 3 lines and look up stuff. Yeah. And that's what bothers me, because great literature, I can read Shakespeare and I don't understand every word of it. And I do sometimes have to go back or whatever, but I can read and I know the gist and I can get the plot. I know what the themes are. I know what the ideas are behind it. And I think that this becomes a little obtuse. And it forces you to do that versus get really involved and transported directly into the story.
Okay. I have Sue. Roberta, I see you. Sue, Lynn, Elaine, Alice, Roberta. Sue Wellett, go.
Okay. I guess you all know, because I've said it many times, I really do not like this book. But I had a lot of trouble with this story. And Mary, I agree with you. I don't know what I would do without Google when I'm reading this. And the other thing, I think you all know that I lived in England for 3 years in the early 60s. There was never, ever anything about this I never heard a word.
Well, but that's.
It was
Never heard a word
Shonda.
about
true.
this.
Of course there wasn't.
You know,
Shonda.
would you please let me finish?
Oh, sorry.
Before you're all talking at once?
Go.
Anyway, there was a lot of talk about World War II. They talked about World War One. They talked about, never, ever did I hear, I had no idea anything like this ever happened. So I found that kind of interesting.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have Lynn, Elaine, Alice, and Merle.
That's what I remember. Okay.
Judy's.
Just piggyback on Mary. I don't mind. You want to go back to her?
No, go.
Okay. I don't mind looking up historical concepts. There's some vocabulary in here that I've never seen before in my life.
A lot of words.
That I find problematic, but you guys who have Kindle, if you press on it, I guess they
do, but
whatever.
the problem is you shouldn't be able to, you shouldn't have to read literature that way. You should be, yes, you do need to look up things up. We need to stop and look at history. We need to know what the content is.
I think that
But to
brings
some
you-
extent, but you shouldn't have to worry about constantly trying to decipher the references. I mean, that's my thing. That
Yeah,
you-
okay.
I think we can agree to
That was
disagree.
not, that was not my main thing. I want to talk about what Ellen said. I think what we're seeing in these stories is that continuum or amalgam of good and evil in people. And what I thought about at the end of the story was, and this is so trite, that they made lemons out of lemonade. They made lemonade out of the lemon. I mean, oftentimes good arises out of evil. So I think that she has to use this magical realism, which is a hopeful, really, in what I've read in books, it produces hopeful feelings when people use it. There's no other way to describe this other than to use magical realism and to inspire hope in people, which this story needed, of course, and which we saw at the end of the story that good did come out of evil. Unfortunately, a lot of people have to suffer, and that's the evil in the world. So,
All right, I'm Elaine.
Okay, I'm going to put a different twist on it.
Okay.
Okay, the story, yes, I agree, is depressing. Yes, it's a different way to read it. But look at us sitting here, how far we've come. And maybe we need to refresh our minds and think of what went before us and what people have suffered, you know, with the match girls or the tenements. And this sort of brings it to mind. And at this season of the year, maybe be a little thankful for what we have, that we can all sit here and say, oh, that was history. And we don't have to work in factories anymore. So, you know, it's that's something that I would not necessarily think of. But maybe we need to sit back and say, okay, we are lucky that we're here. And that's-
maybe we need
All right,
we need to be a Lizzie who does something about it.
Mhm.
And I heard someone speak today, a politician, but I won't go into subject matter, who said, well, you know, let's get off and this is a Republican, who said, let's get off of our asses and do something about this.
Yes.
Well, these ladies were not about to suffer for their entire lives. Maybe we need some fire burnt, under us to get us going.
Okay, wait, I have Alice. Alice, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
I'll
Mary, this is to you and the other people who said they looked things up. I appreciate, in fact, I've said that to people when I've talked about this book club. I said, it's so nice. There are all these people in the book club that are so curious about all this stuff and look it up. I said, I just read the stories, but this is kind of what it goes along with that. I think she gave enough background that you could read this story. She gave dates, and I'm looking on page 105. She said, by the end of August, more than 130,000 workers were out on strike. The strike lasted a month. The dock workers won nearly what? She gives a lot of information. And for me, well, that's part of what I want to say. The other thing is, I think it's better to not stop and just read the story, see the feeling. To me, it was what she went through, what her family went through. And I think you don't need the historical thing to understand what the sacrifice these women made and their families and the horror of it all. And I just think that I understand because I'm reading a book and it's like, it has a lot of vocabulary I don't understand. And I started looking stuff up, but I think it's almost better just to go with the flow. And I mean, what you said about Shakespeare, I don't know about you, but Shakespeare, there's like 50% of it that I really don't understand. You know, if I stopped and looked up every single word, but I love Shakespeare.
Wouldn't
And
get
you
in.
know what? I think you really have to
Just
go with the flow.
I think it's the whole point.
That's
Good.
my take on it.
All right, Roberta, then Judy, Ellen, Merle, Mary.
I
Roberta.
absolutely.
Andy has her hand.
And Andy.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Roberta, go ahead.
I absolutely disagree with everyone and totally agree with Vanessa and Alice. First of all, yes,
That's
there's
why I let you talk, Roberta.
vocabulary that is not familiar,
Yeah.
but you absolutely get the gist of it through context. And half of what reading is pushing you to where you normally don't go. I thought that the gist of the story is really about women's movement, and we should be proud that we're women, and these women before us stood up for what they believed. And I think that if you nitpick and ask for every detail written in the story, you're going to get bogged down with it. I absolutely was transported to her time, felt her suffering and her pain, but yet her courage to stand up for what she believed. And I think that's what literature is, to move you both emotionally and intellectually. And
Thank you.
I love the book.
Thank
It
you.
serves its purpose.
Thank you, Roberta. Judy.
I agree with Alice that on 105, the explanation of how these women created a huge movement. When I was working, I worked on several college books about the effect of women in the workplace, and that's the waistcoat situation. There were several others that it's the women that seem to be the most successful. So I think she's probably trying to show us this point that it was the women who made the difference. And on 105, you realize all these other professions were affected by what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Good lesson.
some of those books that I worked on really made me realize it's typically the women that come forward. And even in politics today, you can see that there are women that are making the difference. And
Here. Ellen.
I don't have anything, but I agree that we've taken a journey together and we've got to the point, I hope, where most of us can see that there's positive in learning this stuff or relearning this stuff. And let's take the lesson that women should be out there protesting. Let's all go out there and do
Here.
what we can.
The midterms are coming. Well, Jim Ken, you'll be here to talk about the midterms. Merle, I'm muting you. Go ahead.
Okay. As a story, I thought it was a very gripping story. The very first sentence of the story takes you into the factory, the Lucifer match and why it's so much better than the other matches. And I thought there were so many themes that tie into what's going on right now. Okay, you've got the feminist movement, you've got the cruelty to immigrants. When afterwards, Lynn said, try not to read too much history before you read. I waited till after the story and then I looked it up. The Irish suffered so much after the potato famine. And
Yes.
the English were so cruel to them. They tried to block shipments of food that were given by the Ottoman Empire to Ireland. And England was so cruel. And then getting these young people here, trying to live in London after they've all been, had to leave. They all had to leave Ireland. They were treated so badly. So I was thinking about how it ties into what's going on. Now, the mistreatment of immigrants, the feminist movement, it took 20 years after this strike to make it illegal to use white phosphorus in making it. 20 years. And there is a plaque. I read this too, that there is a plaque commemorating these girls that was put up by an English Heritage Society in London. So someone has memorialized these girls. But I thought as a story, it was wonderful because it sparked your interest. I looked up all the history about the potato famine and what the English did to the Irish and how the Irish suffered. And it was mainly, though, a feminist story. I thought that was the main thing. That women.
We've all heard of the potato famine, but I did not realize, a million died. I mean, it was a lot. I have Andy. Wait a minute. Andy. What? You? Oh, Andy, Mary Sue. Go, Andy.
Well, one thing that has not gotten brought up, but somehow resonated with me, was the class system. I mean, that there was these people that watched them march down the street, these men who decided how what they were going to give into. I mean, it was so obvious that this was about these people didn't have any value to them. And I feel like it was just saying, oh, look around you. This is exactly what is happening now with different clothes on. And to me, was a main theme of it.
Here. Mary.
I think that what we're talking about is very much, present in the story, but there's also a lot of things about relationships, like the relationship to her grandmother. She saw her as a serpent because obviously she liked her, but she also saw her as a serpent because she committed suicide.
She died.
The whole thing.
She died of suicide.
Right.
We don't say committed suicide anymore.
Whatever,
she died of suicide.
And the priest
I'll talk about it when
absolved her from going to hell, but she went to purgatory.
Yeah.
So there is not, and the other thing is that if you read what they got out of the whole strike, it's almost nothing. They got to eat lunch, not with the phosphorus, but it's in the air. You breathe, you talk, it's landing on your body, and so some of it. And I think that was one of her messages, that women today we're still fighting the battle. The writer's a fierce feminist. And a lot of the stuff she writes about feminism. So the point is, she's saying this is what we got, but
Sue Roberts. I'll talk about suicide.
I was going to shift our focus perhaps to grandma, Nan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yes, she did the unthinkable by succumbing to.
or did she say?
You die of suicide. Just really quickly, Lily Tao is the one.
Yep.
It's to take away the stigma of suicide.
I don't think it was suicide.
Yeah, the grandma who hung herself?
She hung herself in.
Well, she cut, this is, to me, this was a sacrificial act.
Oh.
Yes. The grandmother said, the candle has to keep burning for you to live. And
In the middle.
this granddaughter is going to be the hope of the future because the candle, magical realism, will keep you alive. Okay?
Right.
So I don't think this was
What was the thing with
suicide. I think this was sacrifice.
It was both.
Different. I think it's
Let Sue finish and then we'll go.
It clearly was both, but what she did went against all of her religious upbringing, what have you, to inspire the granddaughter to go on.
Right.
despite everything that was happening to her, she was the light.
Right.
That even though she lied about, she was going to get married and have the husband and all of that, she was the catalyst or the impetus that inspired the granddaughter to overlook her disfigurement and what all was happening, to join the marchers and to move on. So her role in the story is, to me, was very inspirational.
All right, Judy and Ellen. Coming
I'm
back.
beginning to believe that the reason that women are capable of this is because they have nothing left to lose.
Interesting.
That
Oh, wow.
men have things to lose. The women have nothing to lose. What's to lose? She was already disfigured. She was already in pain.
Yeah.
She couldn't eat.
And that's really sort of what's happened in politics.
But not today. I don't think that women have.
All right, Ellen.
All right. Well, I actually have two questions if I can remember them. One, aren't we led to believe in the story before the Nan, dies by suicide?
Yeah.
That the main character, what's her name? We know. Whatever.
Lucy, I think, was it Lucy?
Whatever. That her piece is going to die imminently, or is that incorrect?
It was true.
She knew
Okay.
the whole time. She knew that.
She knew.
So to some extent, as I was rereading that, I was thinking, well, is the Nan just kind of making her death earlier because she doesn't want to live through that? So I don't know how we feel about that, but that's a question that was posed in my mind about how much that is. And it's rhetorical kind of, because we can all have our own thing. My other question that I think the answer is yes to, but I just kind of, for those of you that know more history, the reaction to the protest in London back in the 19th century, wasn't the reaction to the what's
Triangle Ice Factory.
much better?
Another name that we should know.
Right, but wasn't the reaction much better? I mean, I'm asking because now we're that much further advanced the next century, and God, I think that our protests do matter more.
The newspapers, really, when it happened, they were horrified. And it was all over the news. And it was on every pamphlet and every, and on the Lower East Side of New York. I mean, this is not something so that, and there had been unions already forming when it happened, but I think people were just so horrified by it that change happened in the US because we went, oh my God.
Right.
This is where this is earlier. So I think that's part of it. And a lot of it is, it's timing. Women, and the other part of it is the writer, the journalist, was woman who really existed. I mean, but anyway, and she was fiercely for, women's rights. She was for birth control, which was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So this is, you have to look at the timing.
Yeah.
But, and I also think at the time in England, it wasn't just the immigrant. Read Dickens. It's bleak.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
horrible.
You're right.
Children who worked, who were poor, they could be white, they could be English, they didn't have to be an immigrant, and it's the same basic period of time. She starts in 18th, and so the children dying in factories was a normal thing. It was totally acceptable, and they all knew it. And so it's a very different. I think so. They have a slightly different take. So it is amazing. It's not amazing that no one paid attention. It's the same way they did the shirtwaist. And time is a huge difference too. All right.
All right. Yay.
Thank you.
Wait, now I gotta go back to where's my who's next?
Andy is
Oh, Andy.
Well, I did just because this was just said.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the class thing. This is, don't you watch the desks for kids, the kind program?
Yep.
What's any different? Do those kids matter? They don't have, we just took away all this USAID. What is any different?
Yeah.
These kids are, they're disposable. They're just
the Department of Labor.
they're disposable, just like these
Yeah.
women were.
Yeah.
It's whatever you could get for what they could produce. And it's the same thing. I thought it was just.
Elaine.
Okay, I think someone said that not much progress was made. I think we have to understand, as much as this story is bleak, there is hope in this story. The grandmother, for all of the realism or whatever Lynn calls it, I forget. Whatever it is, Lynn.
Lemonade. Magical realism.
No, magical realism.
Oh,
Okay.
magical.
I think the grandmother definitely is a high point. The main character is a high point. We take little baby steps. We don't all of a sudden, I mean, think about how long it took us to get the vote. Think about all of the things. They just don't happen overnight. And I think we have to be, in today's world, a little bit more optimistic and move a little forward from what we're thinking. I mean, change does not happen easily. We are entrenched and we are a men's society. I mean, all over the world, the men have the rule. I mean, if you want to, maybe.
Right.
My
term is everyone likes to be progressive. No one likes change.
Yes, exactly.
Judy.
On the
And
the end of the story, the original print, How Lost, belonged to John Burns, the leader of the Docklands strike, who urged his men to remember the Matchstick Girls who had won their fight and formed a union. But her face is gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
So in other words, women can do what they want to do to try to move things forward, but they won't either be remembered for it or praised for it.
Hey, look at our Bible.
Won't survive in this case.
Our Bible, written by men, for men. When a woman is named, they must have been, wow. Mrs. Noah's wife. Like, there's a lot of them who are unnamed, and I'm always very cognizant of it. And last week, we're in the Joseph novella in Parshat HaShavua, and last week, it's a story of Tamar and Judah, which is love, right marriage. And Judah is bad. And someone started to disagree with me. And I lost my, but she goes, Judah was good. I go, no, he wasn't. He wouldn't let the daughter-in-law's husband died. He has to marry the other sons. And she tricks him, pretending to be a prostitute. She gets pregnant and the story moves on. But just because he's mentioned in the Bible, he's got to, he's part of, our whole history, the Jewish people, but he doesn't have to be good. There's a lot of trickery in Genesis. Come to Torah study. Anyway, Merle, then Lynn and Judy.
I thought the author had tremendous insight into the immigrant experience. Immigrants come to a new country sometimes to stay there forever, but many of them plan to go back to their country when things get better in their country. And what happened here was the little girl thought that one day she was going to accompany Nan back to Ireland. And bury her in the graveyard of the church where she'd been baptized and married, and all of these happy things that the girl would get married and have children, and then they'd have these parties. And I know she explained the parties, that every weekend the people would get together, they would drink and eat and they dance, and it was every weekend. It was such a happy life. And then you realize this whole dream, it's not going to happen for her. It's not going to happen for her grandmother. And that's what happens to a lot of immigrants. And we see it happening right here in the United States. So I thought that part of the story was just so spot on, perfect.
The only thing I would say is people, romanticize the old country. All the stories of the shtetl. No one would want to go back to the shtetl. No one would want it. And, they have to clean it up even for Fiddler on the Roof, Taka. So,
And that was
Beverly, I see you.
And that was my other point. The second point I wanted to make is sometimes you tell people a lie to keep them going. The grandma knew the girl was sick already. She knew. She saw the jaw deteriorate. But she wanted to keep her alive and keep her working and at least have a little bit of an upbeat attitude about life. So I think people can use a lie sometimes.
I like that.
Yeah.
Alice, then Beverly. Alice, and then Lynn. She hasn't talked yet. Go ahead. I'll get you.
Is it my turn?
Alice, go. But quick, we get.
I'm wanting to piggyback.
Okay. I was just going to respond to what Judy said about the last line. Her face is gone in terms of maybe all the efforts that she did, are lost to history. But I think that's what's beautiful about this story is that I see that, Judy. I definitely see that, but I also see, well, obviously she had lost part of her face at that point. But also the whole thing about it made me think about photographs. I'm sure all of you are like I am. I have so many photographs of, my kids when they were growing up, now grandkids growing up. And you have to think like, do you really know what was happening? It's just so you don't
You
really
know their
know.
names.
It's just like you put your spin on it. But it's like, a photograph, it's just such an interesting, it's a snapshot, but, there's so many different ways you can interpret it.
Lynn and Beverly.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, Alice, the photograph is a legacy. The fact that you kept the photograph, that's the legacy that person leaves behind. In this story, she leaves a legacy behind. She inspired this.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Movement. So her face may be gone, but I'm going to hope that the legacy.
Right.
So, all right. So what I wanted to respond to, something that really was on page 87 when they talk
87.
about.
Yeah.
Wait, is that 87?
Yeah.
The Sultan of the Ottoman Empire attempted to send 10,000 pounds in aid to the people of Ireland. Queen Victoria requested that he reduce his charity to the sum of 1,000, as she herself had sent only 2,000. The Sultan agreed, but nonetheless sent 3 ships of food to Ireland as well. Then the English courts attempted unsuccessfully to block the ships. Look
We've done that in Israel.
well, wait a minute. I want to make a point. And then there's a reference to how cheaper these horrible matches are to people, the effect. And I'm thinking greed and fame, power. Can any woman counter that unless she is making a tremendous sacrifice in some way? And that I
Very
think to me,
powerful. She has her own money.
Who's the queen?
say that again.
Very powerful woman who has her own money.
Victoria.
She has, where do you see that in history? This woman, the Queen Victoria said, reduce your amount because this is what I gave.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, that's
I'm
powerful.
saying how dreadful that is.
It is.
But it's also powerful.
Okay, so everyone on that page is dreadful.
Yeah. Okay, Bev, go ahead. Beverly.
Yeah. So I like the book and I like the stories, and I think she's a very compelling writer because I was able to just read right through before I looked at my what page I was on. There's a lot of individual things going on in this story that are very interesting, but for me, the overall take that I have is the abuse of power for money. And it goes on in every society, at every level of anyone that can get away with it. And for me, that was the overriding message about this was going on. It's just, they were going to keep that factory going to make every penny that they could. And it continues on and on. So and we are in a moment of tremendous abuse of power right now in our country.
Great.
A lot about greed, and it's the same story. It just looks a little different.
I agree.
I'm Andy.
Well, just as a background for the Irish part of it, yes, they were being starved by means that could have been overcome. Frederick Douglass went to Ireland and he said, this is no different than slavery. This is like slavery. But the Irish came here, and how many of them became slave holders and masters? Which just tells you don't learn. Who learns a lesson? I mean, I was just so taken by that idea that they were so subjugated.
And then they came here and did
Not everyone.
For example, the Irish, Carnegie. By 1880, he was the richest man, one of the richest men in the country, and he was mistreated his workers. I mean, this is not, it goes generation. I have one comment about the picture, and then also about the grave, because that really bothered me. The whole thing with the graveyards, but okay, so the one she is half in and half out and doesn't have a face because she died before they actually settled the strike. It was going on and she was part of it. So she had a legacy. She's there, but she didn't see it finish. She didn't actually live until there was a settlement. So that's also symbolic of that. But the other part's the graveyard. Okay, so the graveyard really bothered me. So I look at, you said county court, and that's what, in county court, they burned women in the graveyards as witches, and then they would bury them. The flame, the phosphorus, the burning, and that is how they died. And to this day, they have this ceremony.
The grandmother is a witch.
Right. But there's a ceremony apparently, because I looked this whole thing up because it really bothered me. In Ireland, there's a day, where girls go to the graveyards and they light candles. And they bring dolls.
No.
And they burn the dolls.
No.
Yes. Symbolically honoring. It was such a horrible thing. It happened before this date. I think it happened, you go back to the Crucible kind of thing, 1600s where they really did believe in witches and that kind of stuff. So, but this is where their grandmother was from. And she chose to go to a gravesite and she chose to have, the candle and the flame and the whatever, and have her daughter, her granddaughter visit her just like they do in Ireland. The granddaughters visit the graves. So that's a whole connection. That's what I think about the story. That's why I keep saying, I keep looking things up because I just find things
that's fascinating.
Yeah. Which is okay, but
we need people like you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Alice, and then we'll come back here.
Yeah, I just want to kind of put, okay, Andy and Mary, what you said about the Irish then being cruel and, being slave owners and how they treated their workers. I'm sure most of you read the book Caste.
Yes.
By Isabel. And that's one of the main points she makes is that everybody wants somebody below them. It's like we all, that's human nature. I mean, not good, but that's the world that we've lived in, and it happened with the Irish coming here. It's happened all over the world. It's happened over and over again in our country. You always want the one, we always talk about, the German Jews, how they treated the Eastern European Jews. I mean, but it happened in the United States. It happens all the time. So, I mean, I agree with you guys, but it just reminded me of that book, Caste. Wait, one more thing. I want to give a commercial to Northwestern University because next quarter, they're doing a class on witchcraft.
Witches.
And I'm taking it. I think it should be so interesting. If anybody wants information.
I was just going to say, you'll have to report back.
We need to hear about that.
The other thing, I have taught Lo these many years, and this phenomena of there's a bully, he picks on the lowest kid in the class, then a new kid comes in, and the kid who's been picked on picks on that kid. It's human nature. It is human nature, and we can try to teach that out of people. Okay, Lynn, Ellen, Andy.
So look, we're talking about the cause. What is she promoting in here on how to deal with this was my concern. Do we have to cut off hands and hang from trees to make some kind of dent?
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. We have to do the most we can do.
Extreme thing.
Yes. Not symbolically, she's saying it, but yet you can't sit back and say, "Oh, I wish the world was different." You have to go out there and do it. Yeah,
right. I think that's what she is saying.
Yeah.
The idea that you're talking about starts in the barnyard. It's called The Pecking Order.
Yes.
Yes, you're correct.
Yes, you all know about
Yes,
this.
we do. We do.
So, are we animals? Yes, we are animals. We have animalistic behavior.
That's what she was.
Nan, I'm just gonna say one thing about Nan. Nan said to her, you're not gonna see this. I'm gonna be alive before you are, unless, and here comes our magical realism, unless a person with a left hand has a candle. Okay.
Who's been hung?
Okay, so the granddaughter cuts off her hand.
With the candle.
Yeah, it holds the candle.
Yeah, it holds the
Puts it in a
candle.
pail with milk. What was the milk about?
Put the candle.
Sustaining. The milk sustains you.
Right, but and the candle is still, until that candle goes out.
Yeah.
Until the milk's on, the candle burns faster.
She'll be alive and able to do something.
Sort of like Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Stays alive.
Right.
All right, Ellen, and then Andy.
I was just going to say there are so many human evil traits, and perhaps not that we would want to be educated like this all the time, but perhaps it would be, and maybe it's been considered, but even in an early age, maybe in religious school, where you really acknowledge these bad traits and you kind of teach against them. I know that's the stuff that this story generates, but it's just a thought. I mean,
I do teach. I mean, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love yourself as your neighbor. And I think all those Jewish values are seeped in what we're teaching in Love Learning, at camp, everywhere. But it's hard to,
But usually it's done in a much nicer way than acknowledging how evil of what's
When did we start
just a thought.
teaching Holocaust? When do they start talking about it? What age?
So here's the thing. So when I was growing up in the 60s, they had these brutal, recreations.
Right.
And that went by. And then now, I'm not exactly sure here, but it should be a spiral curriculum, and it's something that should be taught about every year, just like math. You don't have 1 year of math. You have 12, however many years of math. So that's how I would say we should be teaching it. It's not the main topic, but it has to be a topic.
No, right, but it's
Andy.
the same. Brutal.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm the only, I could be completely off base, but it seemed to me like, as far as the candle and the death, that they talked about her breath. And then at one point you think her breath was gone, but then it came back. And so it seemed like it was this process of, she seemed alive, then she didn't seem alive. And so it was just tapering out. And then the thing about, human nature, I think that's sort of like a blame. Like, it's human nature. We have to be this way. And I don't think it's really human nature. I think people have different natures, and some people really aren't oriented to that need to be on top or to have more money. They just aren't there. And I just think we have the choice that, this old idea of, the angel brings life and you have somebody. I just think it's more complicated. And I'm not willing to say it's human nature to be a jerk.
Merle Lynn. Merle.
Oh, as a piece of literature, I thought there were some very nice details in it. We know that when Lizzie goes to the foreman and no one signs the document, he takes the sheaf of papers, he slaps her across the face with it. And what does she do? She punches him and breaks his jaw. And I thought that was fascinating because these girls are all suffering from Fosse jaw, and she breaks his jaw. So I thought that was a nice little literary detail. And the other one is that when this strike is happening, they say the strike flares up like a Lucifer match. And I thought that was great too, because the Lucifer match was a more powerful match than anything else. So I thought as a piece of literature, it was good.
All right, Elaine, Lynn, and then Roberta. Elaine.
Okay. I think Andy is very hopeful, but I think basically people want to be ahead of someone. They want to have someone below them that they can say, look, I'm better than you. And I think maybe we're taking this book too literal. it's what Lynn said, which I can't, I have to agree with you, Lynn.
Which thing?
Magical realism. Magical.
It gives us thought to talk. And look at what the interesting conversation is and how much it has brought us. Isn't that what literature is supposed to do? To make us think and make us realize maybe that we're lucky and we need to do something. Maybe we'll all go home and donate $5 to a cause because we thought of it and we wouldn't do it otherwise. So maybe that's what this is about.
I like that. Lynn and then Roberta, then Evie.
Okay, so Andy, I'm going to respond to you. And I half agree with you.
Wow, you are.
Wow. I did a whole values unit when I taught Huck Finn.
Oh.
And I did a values auction first and had the kids divide so much money into, and I had a sheet of like 25 situations and how much would they bid on that, which correlated with a value, which they didn't know until we did it on the follow-up. Many kids, nobody in all the years I taught wanted to be president of the United States.
Wow.
But to give $1 million to a charity, lots of kids
Interesting.
did that.
Yeah.
We defined a value. We talked about values. Values are taught. We're not born with values. So if you are taught, if you are in a family that is, teaching values through their actions, I have a daughter who's totally non-materialistic and one who's very materialistic. So it's family that teaches it. It's all your institutions that teach it. It's your friends that teach it. And some kids come out
One way and some the other.
greedy,
Yeah.
and some kids are not motivated by that. So these people were too busy to even think about values, I think. This is not a story. This is a story about values, but it's exaggerated.
When you're in a survival mode.
Right.
Okay. Roberta.
Okay, I just wanted to comment about Nan's actions. I think to call her actions or to either be repulsed by her actions or to label her actions as magical realism, I sort of disagree. I thought there was so much love for her granddaughter that was the motivating factor for her insight into the future. She had to tell her that. She had to divert her attention from the reality of her situation of being hungry. To go through the ritual of her death and the hand, but all that was out of pure, intense love for her granddaughter to save her from any more pain. And I think that was the motive. And I wasn't repulsed by any of those actions in the cemetery. I just thought about how much her grandmother loved her to give her all that she could.
Great point. Really great point. Evie, you had your hand up before. Did you want to say? No. Okay. Julie Merle-Lynn. Julie, I'm unmuting you. Go.
I just want to comment back to what we were talking about earlier on about a story that you have to look up the words or that you have to know the background. And I would think, I'm not a maven on this, but I would think that any good story would stand on its own for what the story is. And also any author is going to have some kind of inspiration or something that motivated them to write the story. So if you know more about that, then you can get into the story in a different way. But I think that you don't, like what Alice is saying, she doesn't want to be distracted by, excuse me, looking up the words and everything. Excuse me. Um, but the story should stand on its own, just like a movie should stand on its own. But the more you know and understand about the background, gives you a different dimension. And I kind of think of it as comparing it to looking at a work of art. You can enjoy it or you can not like it, but it should, whatever you get out of it, you get out of it. And if you have a knowledge of art history or et cetera, then you can look at it in a different way. But I think that any story should be able to stand on its own, and this does. The other thing I wanted to say is, having said that a story should stand on its own, I did look up Lucifer, which is because I realized that that's a word, a name that I've heard so many times, but did I really understand what the background of that word is? Well, Lucifer was a heavenly angel, second only to God, and became adversarial with God to take over, and excuse me, and fell to earth and became evil, Satan, the devil. And it makes me think of, like phosphorus, like Lynn said, it's a important element, but you can also take it to cause harm and danger. So this naming this product Lucifer points out, I think, the evilness that is incorporated in the production of this product.
Here. Merle, then Judy, then Lynn.
I gotta go. Right. Well, the etymology of the name Lucifer is that it comes from light. Comes from loose, light. Okay. I just wanted to say there's a TV show called Pluribus on Apple TV Plus that I would highly recommend, which is all about human values. And when the earth is taken over by a virus. Pluribus, 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 like they're the saying in Latin, a pluribus unum, that kind of thing. So the point being that once the human race is taken over by this virus, they can't hurt each other, they can't be rude to each other, they can't do anything to kill or harm. There's no more war, but they completely lose their individuality as humans. And so 13 people are not affected by this virus on the whole earth, just 13 people. We have to see what's going to happen. Will they be able to turn things back to normal? Does anybody even want to turn things back to normal? It's all about human values. So I would highly recommend it. Pluribus.
Here.
Judy.
Julie, I have a totally different outlook when I read. And maybe it's because of the teachers I had in college, but I don't ever read a book that doesn't lead me to something else. I always am investigating and figuring out, and that's what makes the literature exciting for me. I agree that a book, that an author should be able to tell you what they needed to say, but I have to explore the other things, and that's what makes me enjoy literature.
I don't think I should say that.
Okay, Lynn. And then
I want to respond to Roberta.
Okay.
So how did this author say to herself, how am I going to show how much love these two women have for each other? How am I going to say it? She's a magical, realistic writer. She's going to write something that you could not believe would happen, right? Am I right?
Yes.
She did. So I am not denigrating what happens, that they don't love each other. I'm saying there is so much love there that the grandmother was willing to keep her granddaughter alive and agreed to have her hand chopped off. I mean, this is like
Take her life. Yeah.
sacrifice. I mean, were you not like horrified with that?
Yes.
I was horrified by that. And so magical realism, a lot of people can't take because they say, this is impossible. This doesn't happen. This isn't real. But this, you saw this in here, the sacrifices. And you have to imagine that the granddaughter, to do that act, that this was a reciprocal love, an enormous amount of love. How was she going to show this? She said to herself, I can't show this in any other, to the author said, I can't show this in any other way than to create this scene.
Ultimate, yeah.
This is the ultimate.
Go ahead, Roberta.
I absolutely agree with you that it was love, but the word magical realism to me conjures up magic. I mean, the concept of, I have to look it up in order to respond more accurately, but I think it's out of love and not magical realism, because magical realism is things that don't
We can go on today. I don't have these words.
happen.
All right, Mary.
And
I think
love can happen. Lynn, we'll continue this later.
Okay, Mary.
Okay, so I think it's a combination. She takes you these places, but it's all based on the same thing. It's based on some reality. It's
right.
Like I said, the whole graveyard thing. I mean, there's some reality there.
There is a reality there.
It's their heritage, it's their history, it's their whatever. But and then if people are good or bad, well, the good came out of it because they passed laws. And that's what we do, because some people do act because they have values that have been taught that are more civilized, and some people are not as civilized and don't do it. That's why we're a nation of laws. That's why it says here, the firm agreed to recognize a newly formed union of women matchmakers and largest union of women and girls in England, and agreed to the following, and she lists them. So they go to, here are the rules we have to follow so we won't be quite as bad. Not that, and they wouldn't have followed them if they hadn't done what they did. So, and that's very realistic. That's what we do. We protest. We do what? We got the civil rights movement. Laws were passed. You know, there's strictures on even like, you know, the shirtwaist factory. After that, there were strictures on who could work and how many hours they could work and all those kinds of things. So progress doesn't happen without some realism of how people really are. And that doesn't mean they're all bad. It means it's like you said, some are, whatever, it's a mix.
Elaine and Roberta.
Okay, I'm going to speak for the book. Okay.
It's not on trial.
It is a hard read, but we are very intelligent women. And look at all the interesting conversations. If we read a soft book and don't disagree, then there's something we've lost. The conversation in our group is what I cherish. Yeah. And the book makes me think, no, I would not pick up this book and buy it and read it on its own. I would not do that.
That's why we're happy you said
it. But that's what you do, Vanessa.
Right, I try to push you out.
Yes, yes.
It's not a retreat.
No, not a retreat.
You're right.
Although the evening group was doing picks a book a month. This month is a beach read. It's the 8 Heartbreaks of Hanukkah. Also magical realism. Had a lot of magical realism. Roberta, and then we need to wrap it up. All right, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Magical realism to me is when something magical or supernatural happens. The acts that the grandmother did were not magical or unnatural. They were horrific acts done out of intense love. So my definition must be different than yours. So
Listen, everybody has to come to this from where they are. I just want to tell everyone Friday night, first of all, happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach. Friday night, there's a dinner, which I don't know if you can still sign up for, but you can come for service in Oneg. It's going to be a really festive party. And Sunday, Rabbi Nina Mizrahi is going to be here to talk about values in Birkat Hamazon, Grace After Meals. She's a very good speaker. Highly recommend. We meet again. I leave for Israel next week.
Oh my God. Fabulous job.
Thank you. And we meet again on, I just looked it up, January 7th. And we're reading Ballroom Blitz. And the only thing I can think about is the Queen song, but I assume she's not referencing that. So Hag Sameach, have a great break. If you need anything from me, you know where to get a hold of me. And I'll see everybody over break. Bye.
Be safe, Vanessa.
Yes, be safe.